Hey, Marauders. I believe this is my first video for Heskin ELA, the YouTube channel that you can access your resources for MLA 8 and citations, your TED Talks, anything that pertains to your respective courses for ELA. And even when you go into post-secondary, you can utilize that information as well, and it should help you have a seamless transition or close to it as much as possible. It still comes down to your time management, your proactive approach to your academics, and your ability to manage and balance all the stuff going on in your life, so that you could stay ahead of the game in regards to getting those big ticket items like your research papers, your projects, and things like that completed first, and then maybe work on those smaller assignments and then get those done before the deadline. And then you can also spend time more once you get those done, you'll have more time to work on your other subjects as well. So it just comes down to how you manage everything. And yes, MLA, citing sources. Well, it may seem a lot of like a lot of work, but really, once you get the hang of it, it's not. The reason why we do MLA or APA or Chicago or Harvard, any of those referencing tools, is to give credit. It's to, when you borrow a source, whether it's an image or textual information or anything like that, you give credit. So you state what you know, you state what you your knowledge is, what your what your understanding of things are, and then you find a source that validates that, gives your opinion or knowledge two legs to stand on, or credibility. Okay, and then it's that source, which in MLA we call the container. It's that source that you give credit to, and the credit would be either the author, the last name of the author, if there is an author, and that would come before the period if you paraphrase, or after a direct quote, and then you start a brand new paragraph. Or if you have a direct quote, then like I said, the in-text citation comes after, and then you start a paragraph. If there is no author's last name, that's what I was going to get to. If there is no author last name, so there's no record of anybody who wrote it or anything like that, then your in-text citation is your title. Okay. And so if you look at the MLA, I'm going to bring this up actually. I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to bring that up with you here. Okay. So you have your MLA core elements. Now, what's out there right now is MLA 9, but 8 is still, you could still use 8. But MLA 9 is more, it's updated for the social media presence, the, like your Twitter, but I guess it's now X, and then any social media references that you use, they have now they've changed things so that you have, instead of just putting a username down that was normally used for those accounts or social media accounts, you give credit to the person that wrote that piece, or if there is no author, like I said, the title of. And the same goes for images too. So if there is an image that you're borrowing from a source, that's your container. If there is no title for that image, you give it one, and that becomes, it acts like a article title, and then that becomes your in-text citation. So in brackets, quotation, and then the title. Say the image is a picture of a boat on the river. Okay, well, that actually could be your title. So in quotation marks, boat on the river, in brackets, that's your in-text citation. And then I would see that in your works cited. Okay, but I'll get to that in a sec. I've already have other videos you can watch on that, and they're a little more specific oriented in regards to those areas, so you can watch that. But this video is more for just to show you why it's important and why giving credit protects you. It avoids that plagiarism path that too many people are taking, especially with the AI generated stuff that's out there, and other sources that will basically take your voice away when you're typing, and you don't want to lose your voice when you're writing. I've said that when I read your writing, I need to hear your voice. Okay, so I've had conversations with you. There's a certain way people speak, way people talk, and that translates into, or that transfers into the way you write as well. So the way you speak is the way you write, for the most part. You could, when you're reading a piece, you can tell that it's the person, like the real person, or it's something else. And if it's something else, it's probably been copy pasted, or maybe it is an AI generated piece, or whatever the case. So if you really want to protect your writing, your voice, give credit to the sources you're using to validate your opinions, thoughts, ideas, things like that. Okay. Once you get the hang of it, and you cite as you go, and then do your works cited as you go, and follow the rules of the works cited, like the alphabetizing of numbered articles first, articles second, and authors third. Once you get that organized, you're going to save yourself a lot of time. And some of you have just posted URLs after a reference you borrowed. Okay, but once you've done everything, you're going to go, oh, right, I have to now do my in-text citation. Now I have to do my works cited, and that's extra work you got to do that you could have avoided. And so again, it comes down to time management and your approach and things like that. And everybody works differently. Everybody manages things differently, and that's unique to your abilities, and so on and so forth. But sometimes just making those minor tweaks will make things a lot easier for you down in the short term, and then eventually for the long term. So if we go back to the core elements here, number 1 and number 2, those are your in-text citations. Okay, if there is an author, it's the last name of the author in brackets, before the period if you paraphrase, after a direct quote, and then you start a new paragraph. If there is no author, you skip to number 2, and that's your title of your source. Okay, so that's in brackets, quotation marks, title of the source, or title. So that's either the article or the name of the picture, image that you're using. Okay, now some of you may be using stock images for your images, and those are free images that are out there for it's part of the public domain. So if you are using those, you do need to provide a disclaimer at the beginning of your document, giving credit to the stock image source that you're using, so that your audience knows that these were part of the public domain and not from another, not from a published source, and you didn't give credit to them. So please keep that in mind. Title of container is the container, like where you got it from. Okay, and then that's written in italics. Okay, and that's Control I on your keyboard. It's the slanted piece there. And then you probably will not be using 4, 5, or 6. Okay, unless you are going into textbooks, encyclopedias, those kind of things that actually have different versions, numbers, and things like that. So you're going to skip to number 7 after you put your container in, and that's publisher, and that's usually at the bottom of the website. It'll be right by the copyright date, and if there is no copyright date, use the current year. Okay, but the copyright or the publisher may be the same as the container. That does happen, but put that in normal text, and then follow the punctuation as well. There, you have author, last name, first name, period. That's number 1. Then you have the title of the source, and then you have comma. Then you have title of container, italics, then comma, and then you skip to number 7, publisher, comma, publication date, comma, and then location is the full URL. Okay, www. whatever. And I know some of them are quite long, and I did state if you could find those series of numbers, like there's 5 or more numbers in a subsequent order, cut it off right there. The URL still works. However, you're going to have to remove the hyperlink in your works cited, but it still is active. So you don't need all that other stuff, but if you want to leave it in there, fine. It does cause some problems when you're indenting those subsequent lines, like I mentioned, to get that imaginary 7 I talked about. And you can see that on the example works cited I have in your course outline. So just keep that in mind as well. So location, and if you're not using websites, location also would be the pages you've used from a chapter from a novel. Okay, so PG S period, if it's multiple pages, 25-34 period, done. Okay, or if it's just PG period 7 period, done. Okay, so as it tells us it's on page 7. And then then you indent, of course, and then you alphabetize it or whatever the case you need to do, and you're ready to go. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, check the information out, check the sources out, and it should help you out. And here's a little more extensive. I'm not going to go into this as it's pretty self-explanatory. It gives you examples again. And like I said, you're not going to be using 4, 5, 6 probably unless you're in law, psychology, medicine, maybe kinesiology. You'll probably be using those 4, 5, and 6. And then there's book, shows you how to what a works cited looks for each one. I think there was one here. Images. Okay, so there's your images for works cited, and obviously this section here, right up to there, would be in brackets or parentheses below the image, usually a size font 8. And it's New Times Roman is the common font for all documents, so just keep that in mind. And size 12 font is the norm as well. If you're using PowerPoint, you could probably use 14, and 18, I guess, would be appropriate for PowerPoints. So just keep that in mind. And as you can see, there's your imaginary 7. If you can kind of just visualize that right there, that I'm highlighting there, and that's, you indent that. Okay, and you can indent by putting the cursor right at the end of the last character here, and then hit tab and moves it over. Or you can just go to the ruler right here and just move that over to So it's right here. You could probably move it up to there. And as long as you have that indent, there's an obvious indent there. So that works too. So just keep that in mind. And but yeah, your in-text citation would be everything here. So that's number 1 and 2 together for the image. And then here's your container is the italics. It's number 3, skipping to number 7, and then number 8, and then number 9, right there. Okay. So hopefully that helps you with the visual, like what it looks like for your works cited. And then, but I need to see this part when you used it, when you used your validation. That's your in-text citation, that's your credit. Okay. And all the in-text citations and your works cited, that protects you. Okay. Just be sure you're not using word for word. And then saying that's yours. Okay. Yes, I gave credit to the person, but no, you still plagiarized because you did it word for word. If you want to, if you want to show that you fully understood what you're reading, paraphrase it. Okay, and then put your in-text citation. If it's something you can't paraphrase, you don't want, because if you try to change it, it's going to lose its meaning or essence or whatever the case, and do a direct quote. Okay, and there's an example of direct quotes further on in this document, and this is in your course online booklet as well. And then probably you won't be doing any of these things, but the websites are coming up here, right there. So 95% of your research paper will be this. And because this is the example for this cited source, white is your in-text citation, and that again will come before the period if it's paraphrased, after a direct quote, and start a new paragraph. If that was gone, then the in-text citation would be that. Okay, that's your number 2. Okay. Then here's the example of works cited. It would be on a separate page, separate from the main part of the document. So keep that in mind. Don't just keep going with it. And there's your numerical article because it has a number first. You do that first, then you have article title second. There's none on this example, but that's where it would be. And then you have your authors, which would be here. Okay. So 2, 3, 7, 8, and 9. Okay. All right. Keep going here. And so once you get that this whole format in place, it'll be second nature for you. If you're doing, like I said, if you're doing a book, you'll have to have the page number in the in-text citation. So author, page number, and then of course put that page number in your location in your works cited. So this is very important all the time when you borrow. Make sure those 2 points are there, and you have to cite your sources. Okay. I know it's not, nobody likes doing that, but it has to be done. But once you get into it, like I said, it becomes second nature. You won't even realize that that it's a big deal, because it is a big deal, but you won't realize that it is one because you're just typing away and then doing your citation. It just becomes part of the natural aspect of writing. So the person that did do the actual writing, the one who published it, they're going to appreciate that big time because they know that you took the time to give them credit. So that's very important. And just to sum up here, again, there's in-text citation of just author only or article title there. So please take a look at this. It's all there for you. And I know it says bibliography here, but that's for Chicago. Change that to works cited. Okay. but bibliography is the most commonly used reference to term that's out there. It's works cited for MLA, references for APA, and bibliography for Chicago. Those are the main three that get used quite often. And of course, there's many others. Like I don't even know how many. There's just lots. So be sure you know what you're doing for what your instructor wants for your course. And if you have any doubts or you're not sure if you should cite or not, just check this chart out here. That should help you with those big 32-page papers that you might be doing. And if you have anything that's longer than you know, three sentences or whatever, that becomes a long quote. And here's an example of what a long quote. Here's what you learned about it. Here's, hit that colon there, and then indent your long quote. You don't need quotation marks anymore. And then you have your in-text citation right after the period. Start a new paragraph. Okay, and this is the MLA 9. Try to say that 3 times fast. Example. So you can see the difference between MLA 9 and 8 in regards to Instagram and, well, Twitter, which is now X, I guess. So just make the change accordingly, and you go for there. Okay, and I think that's about it. Oh, last thing. If you're doing a paper, okay, you need to have this in your head. This top part of your paper is your header. Just double click the top of your page. And then on the left-hand alignment here, you have your name, the teacher's name, the class you're taking. You'll probably have your student number in post-secondary right there. And then the date is due, okay? And then your right alignment will have, when you add page numbers, it'll have your last name and your page number. There's an easy trick to figure that out. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I kind of, when I do this, I add a page number, and I do this, and then I hit enter, and then I go left alignment, and then I put that there, and then I double click on the main page, and then I know every page will have all that information on the header for each page. There's no title page for MLA, but your title is part of the main part of your paper, so it just comes before your introduction. Okay, and the last bit, I'm just going to stop sharing here. The last bit. I know people write papers in a sequence. They do introduction, body, conclusion. Okay. Hopefully you've done an outline before, and you've done a rough draft of some kind. But maybe during that rough draft, focus on the body itself, the 3 discussion points you're going to focus on, and then do your conclusion, which is summative. Gives the reader a chance to, oh yeah, that's right, you did talk about that and discuss that and things like that. Final thoughts, then go to your introduction. Now you know what you've been writing about. You can have a really good thesis statement, and just let the reader know that this paper is going to be discussing this, and then your lead on sentence, which is the sentence that introduces the first point, and you go from there. Okay. Yes, that's kind of the quick way of explaining it, but at least that gets you start on the right path. So if you need help with that, please let me know. And I know this is a quick video, but just based on some observations, want to make sure that everybody understands why citations are important. Okay. Give credit to the people who work really hard to get these things published, and you're borrowing from them. Give credit. The same goes for a conversation. If you're borrowing, so-and-so said this, give them credit. Okay. And then use that as your validation to give your opinions or thoughts credibility. Okay. It's very important to ensure you protect yourself in that regard. All right. So any questions, let me know, and take care. Be safe.